All right, so we're back in the shop. Just working on this thing, trying to get this ready to go back in the OBS truck. So this is a Gen 4 5.3, and I converted it from 58X to 24X, and then put a 1X wheel for the cam sensor on the front. And I had to drill and tap to put our oil drain back how Michael had it on his. He probably had his a little straighter, but you know. So I had to swap the valve springs on it, get the cam out of the other engine, new lifters, new trays, new valve seals, new head gaskets and bolts, etc. So this thing's about ready to go back in the OBS truck. I got to get the motor mounts off the old motor, and then get the oil pan, rear cover, and all that good stuff on there. So I got his old motor out last week, and got it stripped down, and then we went to Daytona for the turkey rod run, and got down there Wednesday, and then came back Saturday. So I got this exhaust system over here. I was walking down one of the first aisles there, and they had this whole exhaust set up, headers, all the little pipes, mufflers, X pipe, and everything. And it says Hooker on it, and it's got nice rolled tips and everything on it. So it looked the contour for the Caprice. So I think it's a Camaro, so I would have to extend the tip out some or whatever. But anyway, I asked the guy, I was like, hey, what do you want for it? Thinking I had no idea what he was going to say. And he was like $200. So I pulled out the cash, and then immediately had to figure out how to get them back home. So, but anyway, got them back home, and whenever I get the Caprice in here, then if I can use some of this to clean up what was under there, because again, it was made out of what I had at the time. So this looks like a nice kit and everything. So I don't know how the X pipe will do in the turbo. Probably not a good idea. Speaking of exhaust, I had posted, somebody was talking about 6.2 in one of the groups or something, and one guy claimed that he had a similar setup with 62, 66s on his 6.2, and removing the full 3-inch exhaust picked him up 66 wheel horsepower. So I asked him, cool, what'd you do? And he basically had about 18 inches of pipe off the turbos with a turn down. So I was like, no, I'll sacrifice 66 horsepower. I don't, I want it quiet in the car, cruising and driving and everything. It's not a full-blown race car. So, and plus that was he said at 21, 22 pounds of boost, he picked up that 66 horsepower, wheel horsepower. So, which is a good gain. Don't get me wrong if I was trying to do that, but for a street car, I don't want to hear it, until I'm on it. So it's just not worth it for me. There was another person posting that they had a 6.2 set up with, again, 62, 66s, and my engine's about 9-to-1 compression, and he said his was like 11.5-to-1, and I think it made, 1,200 horsepower on the same boost or whatever, which I guess that goes to show you how much a bump in compression does. So again, with mine being a street car on pump gas most of the time, it makes 760 on the street tune for pump gas. So again, the car runs and drives and pulls really, really strong. So I'm not really worried about making 1,100 on the street. I just, there's no point in my opinion. So Circle D had a Cyber Monday thing or something. So I ended up getting a torque converter from them today. It's a nice triple disc and everything. I think I even got a free t-shirt out of the deal, and it was $1,280 something, no taxes or shipping or anything. So real excited about that. I don't know what the wait time is on it, but anyway, I want to go ahead and get it. I was going to get the FTI triple disc at Summit, but I'd rather have the Circle D, and plus it's more spec for my application. I also have a line on a 6L90. I wasn't able to get down there this week with going to Daytona and all, so this weekend I'm supposed to be going to get a 6L90 for it. It's out of a two-wheel drive truck, so from what I understand, I'll need a slip yoke and have a drive shaft made, which, hot rod, race cars, that's part of it. And then the cross member is different, and Michael was telling me to read the latest file we had in it when I was down there, and then do ride and tire from his whatever files in there for the transmission, do a ride and tire to the new one, and don't take the pan off and the TCM and all that stuff. He said I didn't need to swap them, so I'd always read you need to swap them. He's done it before. He's the tuner. He knows. That's why I called him. So he said that's all I need to do is do a ride and tire, and then we're good to go on that. So there we go. This is the engine that came out of the OBS truck. You can see how far down this piston is. This piston, number one, is at TDC and nice and flush with the block. So that's how far down that rod got compressed. And really, it's kind of interesting that that's all it needs to compress the rod for the bottom of the piston to hit the crankshaft. So it's really not that much. I could feel it when I was turning it over in the truck, so I knew, I've been there before, so I knew it had a bent rod, and we obviously knew that number 6 was problematic. So that'll segue into the next conversation about this type of stuff is, people owning this stuff and doing this stuff. My videos are basically for people that are like me, that work on their own stuff and have knowledge of the turbo setup and what all is involved with owning a boosted setup. Because I feel that if you're going to have something like this, a hot rod, I feel you need to have some type of knowledge or concept of what's going on and everything, because every little thing can be problematic, can cause big problems or big damage. So I mean, again, take this truck, it had a $1,700 triple disc in it. I built the transmission, this truck makes 700 at the tires, and it just, I was driving along and I felt the converter just rev, and I knew exactly what it was when it did it. Was able to get the truck off the road, stop, evaluate the situation, ease the truck on home, and before complete meltdown of the transmission and everything else. It's just, you have to have some type of knowledge of this to do this, because, with this, I told him, let's buy a new set of injectors, and, that would have avoided that whole conundrum with bending a rod over here on his old engine. So had we just put the injectors I recommended in there, then, it would have been going and we wouldn't be here. Now, since he doesn't know how to do this stuff, he can't do it himself, and it's having to pay me to do it. It's really costing him, because just the gaskets, the bolts, the lifters, that's not even a camshaft or anything else. And I didn't buy a front cover because I was, I'm kind of slow, so I forgot that it had a cam sensor, and I was going to have to swap cover, and I need to replace this seal, so I got to get a seal now because I didn't get a front cover. So that's another $40 for a front cover and seal, which I already had in the gasket. So just the seal, but still, just the head gaskets, bolt, lifters, trays, the miscellaneous. Now, because the cam sensor's up here, you got to have the Casper harness to move it up here. And he wouldn't have known that. And then to take the engine apart and swap it from a 58X to a 24X so we don't have to run a converter box. I mean, you got to pull the whole engine apart, pull the crank out to do that. And, I know he's not happy that this is happening. I mean, I get it. But, if he'd have listened and got a new set of injectors, it wouldn't have been a rod. And, I flowed those injectors and 2 were problematic, and that one was problematic initially, but it cleared up and was fine. So, how am I to know that it was going to do it again? So, and again, my recommendation was to buy all of them. So anyway, now we've got this engine. Once I finish it up, I have to pay. So he's having to pay labor for me to pull the engine and everything out the initial time. And now to pull it out this time, and then to switch everything from his other engine to this engine. And, I needed the springs, so I'm having to take the springs. And I hate doing springs. I don't like doing springs at all. But, I had to pull the springs off the old heads and then put them on this head and then put springs back on the old heads, because he's wanting to put the other engine back together, I guess to try to sell it and recoup some of his money or to keep it as a spare or whatever. But, again, it adds up quick. I mean, today, I spent almost $1,300 for a converter for the Caprice. And then I guess I didn't talk about the Yank, the Yank part, So anyway, the Yank converter, talked to them today, and some bearing inside of it tore up, and it's going to cost me $600 to have that converter fixed. And they claim that it's because I don't have the Sonex lube, line to lube valve in there. But I called my transmission buddy that built this one there, and he was telling me that if you drill that diagonal hole in the pump from the HD2 kit, that it does essentially the same thing. And that's probably not the issue, but again, when you get into stuff like this, you're lucky if they help you out at all, because they're going to find some kind of way to tell you, oh, it was this or it was that. And I mean, how are you going to prove otherwise? All they're trying to do is not have to pay to fix your stuff. And, now I've got that much money in the Circle D converter. Now I've got $1,700 in this converter plus $120 to ship it to them, plus the $600 for them to fix it and ship it back to me, and then to have the transmission going through and make sure it's okay, and then put that little Sonex valve in there to pacify them. I mean, it's been brutal. And then, having to buy a 6L90 for the Caprice. I need a few more jobs to break even to try to get my stuff back going. But anyway, that's why I say that if you're going to own something like this, you need to have some sort of working knowledge of how to be able to work on it yourself. Watch some videos and learn how to do stuff on these things, because if you've got to bring it to me or anybody else, it's going to cost you a lot to get this stuff done. So anyway, that's that for now.